Welcome to Fueling Your Legacy, hosted by Samuel Knickerbocker. Each week, we expose the faulty foundational mindsets of the past and rebuild a new, stronger foundation essential in creating your legacy. We've got a lot of work to do, so let's get started. Welcome back to Fuel Your Legacy. Today, we have a wonderful guest that's going to be sharing something that I think is probably one of the best titles of what she's titled herself as and things that she's become expert in. That's why I want her on the show. But her name is Belinda Ginter, and she calls herself the Unstoppable Belinda and truly believes that we are all unstoppable once we clearly work on our beliefs and change our mindset. And I completely agree. If you talk a lot about or listen to a lot of these podcasts, then you find that that's really what my purpose is help you identify your identity, get down to the core of who you are, and then build a legacy off of that identity. What's cool about her, though, is she is the industry-leading emotional kinesiologist. Now, if you know what those two words mean, then you're probably thinking the same thing that I thought when I first started this. What the crap is that? Because it's opposite words. Kinesiology has to do with movement of a body, right? If you're a kinesiologist, you're basically doing physical therapy for people, yet she's talking about the emotional kinesiology. So it seems contradictory, but I'm excited to share with you guys what she's learned and why they actually are the same and why she presents it that way. So go ahead, Belinda, let us know. Belinda, that's a what do they call that?
You're putting emotional kinesiology together, and then you're putting my name together.
Yeah. Two things that so anyways, Belinda, go ahead and let us know kind of where you're from. Let us know a little bit about you, your family, what's got you into emotional kinesiology.
Yeah, fantastic. So I'm Belinda Ginter. I am based out of Canada, but lucky through the World Wide Web, we're all able to have these beautiful entrepreneur global businesses. So all my clients are spread out through the whole world, basically. I have clients in different countries, and in a day I can speak to 3 different countries or more, which is so fantastic when you look at like sharing your passion. And I don't know about you, but from what I've heard from your podcast, you have a big heart for service as well. And so when you think about your practice and helping people, it just wasn't enough for me to serve my local community or even just my own country. I had such a bigger vision for that. Yes, I'm an emotional kinesiologist. What that is testing your body to see what emotions are laying dormant in each organ that you have. So it is a form of muscle testing, where we can do it while you're in front of me, or we can do it long distance, where we're really seeing where your emotions are lying, in which part of your body, why they're there, when they started hanging out there, because they become like unhealthy storage units is really
Sure.
what happens. So my story is I really fell into this. I was in a psychology course. I was actually going through to become a chiropractor. I was in university. It was a chiropractic university called Life University in Georgia. I was getting my prerequisites. I just needed a few to get into the program. And so I took this course in psychology that was really based around sports psychology. And when I was in there, my amazing professor, who I'm so grateful now, stopped by my desk and said, okay, you guys all have to write these papers. You've got the assignment, but I just really feel you would love learning about emotional kinesiology and how it relates to psychology, how many psychologists are using it, to realize, what's really happening with people. Because I noticed that you always want to get to the core of the problem. You're not really happy when we talk about things in psychology that just kind of leave things unanswered. And he had pegged me totally. He was absolutely correct. So I did that project, and that's where really it all started for me. But the interesting part is I learned that and then fell in love with it, but then discounted it, which a lot of us do with our passions. Sometimes our zone of genius comes to us so easily, as easy as breathing, so we discount our purposes. So I still thought it was to become a chiropractor. So I just said, well, that was really cool. I'll chop it up as a cool experience and learning about that, and I'll kind of move on. So I didn't think about it again until probably had to be about 3 or 4 years later. I met a lady that was doing a form of muscle testing called Bachman Emotional Technique. Ended up getting care from her, and oh my gosh, my life got so much better in the sessions that we did. And so I thought, okay, this is falling on my lap twice now. I should pay more attention to what this is and where this is going for me. So I got certified in Bachman Emotional Technique, and then again did nothing with it for years. I think another 5 or 6 years, I again just tucked it away. I had a belief system that time that I needed to make my husband successful first. I'd always run very busy, large doctor's office, and he was a chiropractor acupuncturist. So I had it in my mind that, okay, I'm going to get him set up first, and then I can live my passion. And so then that transferred to, okay, I'm going to get him set up first, and then you have children. So then I'm going to have my first child, and then I'm going to have my second child. Oh, and that now I'm going to put myself first. So there were so many years spanned in between where I knew my passion so many years ago. I just didn't give myself permission to stand in that power and actually do it. So I have an amazing husband, amazing 2 children. One's 12, a little girl who's like totally inundated and loves musical theater, everything about it. It performs in lots of plays and is living her passion. She's got it already set. She's going to Broadway, has a Broadway sign above her bed, and is manifesting everything with like all the playbills all over her room. And then I have a son who's 7 who's definitely saying he's going to be a hockey player. So we'll see where that all goes. The journey was very interesting because I saw how many times, sometimes we don't give ourselves permission to do what's right for us because we're worried about taking care of everybody else,
Yeah, absolutely. I think that just a few things that I picked out of that I think are crucial in this journey, and they proved to be in your journey, is first off, it kind of started with you explaining where you help people. For me, my story is maybe a little bit different as far as when I realized I need to be working internationally. And that was first when I got on Instagram. Instagram was a whole new animal for me. I was probably 10 years late to Instagram, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
But I put it off for a long time because I don't want to learn social media. Finally, I get on Instagram, and I mean, you're in a world market on Instagram, unlike Facebook, where you're very much localized, or you can choose to be international, but for the most part, you're localized. Instagram is an international tool. And once I started seeing, wow, there's people from other countries who need this value for me, and working in finance, I can only, with certain licenses that I have, I'm kind of restricted if all my product is this financial service. And so that's when I started having to think outside the box. Well, what about the financial aspect or the mindset or the training is actually applicable everywhere? What could I have on a world market? Yes, maybe some of the things I can only do in the United States, but there's a lot of stuff that's equally applicable that's international.
Anywhere.
And how do I monetize both aspects of it? So that's a huge thing, because people think, they often think, I was actually just talking to a client yesterday who does health insurance, which is awesome, right? And you need to do health insurance. It's like, what other areas can you monetize in your life that are around the health insurance? But how could you write a book about health insurance, write some white papers, help people get educated? So learning what other areas you can monetize comes from the belief or the desire to help more people than just your immediate community. So that's huge there. And then along with that, though, and this you talked about two or three times in your story, is we have these belief systems that at the root of it, it's that it's not for us, that it's for somebody else, or that I can help somebody else be successful. I'll follow my dreams once somebody else is successful. That time is never going to come, because there's a few billion people on this planet. So there's always somebody else's dream to get caught up in.
Absolutely.
Always. And so the mission is, how do we help people get caught up in the vision of their own dreams?
Absolutely. I needed a mindset expert like way back then to say, call me out on my stuff, right? And say, which is what we do for other people now. But that would have been pure gold then, because I would have been doing my purpose a lot sooner.
Yeah,
That's why people need coaches. They need masterminds. They need, what you do, Samuel.
absolutely. I'm just curious, where do you think you would be at if what you took a hold of this the first time it dropped in your lap in college, when your college professor said, hey, you really like this? Where would your business be? What scale would your business be? Your income be? Your family life be different if you had taken a hold of it then rather than waiting?
Definitely 7 figures and a lot more exposure. It would have been getting in on a ground level of the internet when things were really booming and really exploding. So, things would have been quite different. It wouldn't have been a slow, steady climb. I think it would have been a much, up to a peak almost, if I had jumped in right at that time. But I've given myself permission to know that, there is no perfect timing anyway. And when I finally woke up, and it was like, have you ever experienced when you're dating someone and you literally wake up and you were just so certain that it's done, that there's no looking back, that there's no doubt in nothing they can say can change it. You can have those difficult. I literally woke up like that, and I was like, I am ready for this now. Like, this is a day forward. And so maybe, I'd like to say I would have been at 7 or 8 figures, if I had really grabbed a hold of it then. But maybe not, because maybe I wasn't fully ready and fully in and fully at that point in my life to do it, to be quite honest.
Yeah, no, I love the processing there that you just went through, because there's so many people who are listening to this thinking, man, I should have done.
Yeah.
And then they start thinking, well, maybe it's too late. Maybe I should just finish off supporting other people because they're so close to their dreams. And I love that, because right now is the perfect time. When you finally start doing something,
Always.
It's the perfect time. Over the last few weeks and months, my wife and I, we've been going through some health changes for ourselves. Well, I shouldn't say for myself as much. I am doing it purely in support of my wife. It's benefiting me as well. But for my wife, she had some really bad emotional ups and downs. And for a long time, we tried little things with health, but she was never committed to it until it became like a do or die type thing. Once it becomes a do or die type thing, it's really easy to be committed to what's important to you.
Absolutely.
And there's no variance. You're not going to cheat, because it's like, no, like this is do or die. And there's a guy that I talked to, or I went to a seminar. I think his name is Scott Schilling. Could be wrong, but I believe that's who his name is. He said, look, everything is perfect. Everything happens at the perfect time when it's supposed to happen. So if it did take you multiple years, it was perfect when it happened. And living in an identity that everything is perfect as it is, that gives so much peace and so much permission to release any stress, guilt, shame, any of that. Just saying, yeah, it's perfect the way it is. Now let's make the best of it. And it's a huge skill to learn. So I love it. Now let's talk a little bit more about this idea of identifying where somebody holds their pain, their shame, their guilt. Like, what's the process of really identifying that in somebody's body?
So I'm muscle testing the whole time I'm talking to my clients long distance. I'm right here, my hands are moving, and I'm muscle testing. I've given up trying to explain it, to be quite honest with you, because all I know is that over 6,000 clinical hours, it works. Like, every session works. So, like, when I was like, God, this sounds so foolish. And I'm not really one of those. I lean towards more quantum physics with my mindset than I do law of attraction. That's just who I am. I'm not saying law of attraction is not good or anything, but for me, I love the science. So for me to do this, I had to really wrap myself around the anatomy and understand anatomy, which took me into understanding like pressure points and acupuncture and studies that have been done for centuries old. And when I look at it that way, it all makes perfect sense. But when you're trying to explain it to us, like, what do you mean you're muscle testing? Like, what does that do? But what I'm doing is I'm asking the body for answers. And what I love about it is it gets our conscious and subconscious mind coming together, which I think is very difficult for us to do. If we were just to have a conversation and you say I was a therapist, you could take me on all sorts of routes because you're avoiding what you really want to talk about. I just did a session yesterday on this wonderful lady, and she gets on the phone. She's like, "Well, I don't really know what to talk about." And I was like, "Let's just test your body. Let's see what's coming up." And all of a sudden, when I tested her body, we got to the point where she was feeling like she had lost her power. Okay, and so I was like, "Where in your life is this showing up?" And then the waterworks start, because we'd hit it. Like, we hit that nail, and it was like, okay, what you need to know is it's okay and it's safe to be vulnerable here. And the more vulnerable and real you can just get and just tell me what's going on, the better we can tie this all up with a pretty bow and get rid of it, for good. But I understand with my clients, it does take a lot of vulnerability, and it takes putting themselves out there and talking about things that they may normally avoid if they're talking to a friend or even a therapist or anyone else. But the body always knows. And the best part is the body always knows what comes first. So they may think, oh, I'm really upset about this breakup. But when I test them, no, they're having, they're being triggered, like in your heart, for example. This is the board that I use, and it has all the emotions and it has all the organs. And so with the heart, when I test someone, I'm like, okay, so there's an emotion in your heart. What is it? Is it lost? Is it abandoned? So it's abandoned. Okay, so there's somewhere in their life that they're feeling abandoned. I always test, is this your emotion, or are you picking up someone else's? More females than males will store other people's emotions like crazy. Like, they have a whole storage warehouse of this stuff. So I always test that first, because sometimes we're feeling it so strongly that, of course, we think this is how I'm feeling today. But if you don't realize that, okay, but I was just around Aunt Jane that's going through a really, bad financial time and feeling lost and feeling hopeless, and then came home, and a couple of days later, now I'm starting to feel these emotions. I don't even remember the conversation with my aunt. I just think it's all coming from me. So that we pinpoint, what's going on, where it is. The thing is, a lot of people worry that they'll remember the situation, but they do always. It's like the body wants to clear the stuff. It doesn't want you sitting in it any longer than you have to. So you will come up with a situation of like, oh yes, I was sitting with my aunt, she was talking about this, and oh wow, so I've taken on her emotion around this. So where's the mirror? So where in your life are you feeling this? It may not be around finances, but it wouldn't have triggered you, and you wouldn't have had these feelings pop up unless there's some sort of mirror somewhere else. So it's really going deep, but with the whole idea of just shedding light, because I have learned everybody wants to know the secret of success, and I swear it's clarity. The minute you can shine light on something, you can deal with it, and that could be any aspect of your life or business. So I just feel like I'm just like this lighthouse that shines the light on it so they can understand it. And then once they understand it, they're like, I can't believe, like, that's so silly. I can't believe I'm carrying that around for, 12 years. I'm just going to let that go. And they make a conscious decision to let it go. And only when you have that moment, like I said, when you wake up in the morning and you've broken up with whatever belief system that you make, can you let it go? But this is when they do it. So it's really exciting to see it happen in real time.
Yeah, I love it. Anybody who's listened to me on a regular basis, she just took the words out of my mouth, because it's so, like, I believe in this stuff so much, but I go, what I see as the problem with the law of attraction is too many people have a different opinion about what it is.
Yeah.
And it's convenient term. It's a term that can sell, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately,
And
I'm
marketing.
like, yeah, for marketing purposes, it's a great term, but
Yes.
like, I'm way more along the lines of like, I want the data, and so I came into finance from a neuropsychological background. Like, I studied psychology, but I love the quantum physics about it. And to understand muscle testing, or, I mean, that's, I think muscle testing is almost like the tip of the iceberg going down that realm of things, but you really have to understand the quantum physical
Absolutely.
vibrations of what's happening to understand how it's really not awkward at all. It's not weird at all. Being across the world doesn't matter. Like the distance doesn't
Mhm.
matter. Once you understand the actual like scientific rules that are at play, everything else makes so much sense and it's way less woo woo. Like everybody thinks it's woo woo. It's like, no,
I
this is like,
know, it drives me crazy. I'm like, no, it's like
this is more
and
real than
it's
anything
all
else in your
energy.
life.
Well, yeah, everything is energy, but it's not energy. Like there's science behind it. There's anatomy behind it. Like there's a reason why so many people are using this modality, like psychologists and psychiatrists and even different sports physicians, things like that, because it really we have the ability to ask the body questions and get the answers
Mm-hmm.
every
Yeah,
time.
absolutely. I love it. I think it's such a cool area of expertise, and it's exciting to be there. One thing that I found fairly, and I want your opinion on this because you're a practitioner.
Please.
I've just seen it
Mhm.
happen, and I've heard people's opinions, but I'm curious for yourself because one thing that I've come across when you tell people about this, they're like, "Oh, what's this person doing?" Just like over there in a corner, muscle testing about my life, and they're finding all the stuff out about me that I don't want them to know. And in my experience, it's not like that. Like there has to be a level of vulnerability to really engage. Is that your experience, or would you say that doesn't matter? You could do it for
Yeah,
anybody
well,
regardless.
I have a way with people, which I think I was born with, which I am blessed to have. I can build rapport really fast.
Hmm.
So I haven't got a lot of kickback or a lot of resistance. The odd time, I get teased a lot because I do a lot of mindset and I do a lot of emotional kinesiology. And my technique is really kind of blending the two. Like I muscle test, but that's not all I do. I'm also really bringing mindset tools and tips into it. So it's kind of a mixture of both. So, I have one friend, and I'll go over to her house and we'll be leaving. Her husband will be like, don't make her like crazy positive like you and you drop her off, like joking around kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
Like he never get my services. He's like, okay, you're killing me on Instagram. Stop making me happy. Like it's just like a big joke. So you'll get the odd people who just want to be silly about things, but really, I think people are sick and tired of carrying around so much extra emotional weight. And when they find someone who really does care and who wants to sit with them in their messy, I think they're very appreciative. Because in this world of social media, everyone wants to see your brilliance and nobody wants to support you in your messy and nobody wants to show their messy. So when there's a safe place where they can be as messy as hell, they really can just be authentic and say what they're feeling without any worry of judgment or anything. That's pretty unique now in this day and age.
Yeah, I completely agree. I love that. So when you're moving into like from this journey of okay, finally you're accepting what you want to do. This is after
Yes.
a year of years of ignoring it, years of
Yeah.
almost adopting another identity or another role at the very
Yeah.
least in life. And then you wake up that morning, right? And sometimes it's unexpected by the person you're breaking up with, that you're breaking up with them.
Absolutely.
Um,
Yeah.
and you,
And it was very
people experience
unexpected in
naysayers.
my profession.
Yeah.
Like, 'cause I was running these big multi-doctor clinics with like 20 different like part-time doctors and all their clients, and I had a full staff on it. And the problem is, we're good at a lot of things. Like that's why people have trouble finding their passion and their purpose. I guess is that because we're good at a lot of things, because a lot of things will have same aspects in them of what we do, but they're not the full package, right? So on the outside, I should have been glorious and happy, and that should have been my purpose if you were an outsider looking in. But inside, I was bored as hell because it wasn't where I needed to be. It wasn't serving to the level I wanted to serve. Like I was like maybe half full. I still loved everything I did, but I wasn't fully living out my purpose. So I think that's what messes a lot of people up, because they try and find their purpose, and they actually can find it in a lot of little things, but it's like, what level of your purpose is this at? Like I almost had to say, like, what percentage am I living this out? And it would have been about maybe 35%. And I had to ask myself, like, really, are you Are you willing to live your life only living out 35% of your purpose because you're good at what you're doing right now? Or are you willing to get really uncomfortable, maybe not be so good at something, but build it into something where you can feel like 100% like you're serving? And so it wasn't an easy decision. I left guaranteed income, went to nothing. When you make that decision, I did it really smartly, Samuel. I really did a smart hustle, like I like to call it. And smart hustles aren't hustles because I don't really like the word hustle, but it's when you have to get laser sharp focus for a period of time to get a desired, result. And so I went to my 9 to 5 every day. But what I did was I started doing sessions on my lunch. So I could do like one session because I had an hour and I had an office luckily where I could shut my door. I did one session then, and then I did 2 sessions when I put the kids to bed at night. So I was in your position. I had like young kids then. I think Gavin was only around 2. So I would do a session from 9 to 10 and 10 to 11. Well, what was cool about that is clients really liked those times because their kids were all in bed too. So it was a good time for someone to kind of work on themselves. Once I got full up with that every day of the week, I opened up, a half day Saturday, and then a full day Saturday, and then a half day Sunday, then a full day Sunday. And then when I got to like all that done, I was probably working about 50 hours a week, but I was more energetic than I'd ever been because I was actually living my purpose. So even when politics were happening in the corporate world at my job there, I would just smile. And I remember my staff going, "What's wrong with you?" Like usually you'd be like trying to fix this and you'd be trying to and you're just like, "No, that's okay." Because you just gave up the fight of stuff you couldn't change. And I'm like, well, because I'm doing this on the side and I'm fully fulfilled. So even though I was working 50 hours, I probably felt like I was working 5 because I was feeling so great. But at that point, I had a number in my mind. And I said, once I get to $7,000 in savings from my mentorship, from my coaching, then I will give my notice at my corporate job and then go fully into what I'm doing. So I took it slow but steady. So I didn't make that client. I find that a lot of times people jump too fast and then they white knuckle it, and it's very hard to build a business and build up your purpose when you're under the gun already. Like when you're starting from like, okay, I brought nothing in this month. Now I have to get to $10,000 this month. That's a big jump. Mm-hmm. But if you do it slow and steady and build yourself up some savings, then you can build that way. But I have learned over the years, and this is a big statement, but I believe it to be true, that you cannot manifest and you cannot build abundance when you're feeling in lack. True. In fact, you probably find this in the financial world. The best thing you could do when you're in lack is call up a friend and take a personal loan, with a private investor or something, and put money in your account. Even if you don't use it, you see it there, you feel successful, you make better business decisions. So I really feel like I did a smart hustle, then I calmed down and I built it up beautifully.
Yeah, I love that. So tell us the story of your biggest naysayer in your journey and how you silenced them in your mind.
There's been so many. What you learn as the more visible you get, the more these kind of personalities come out of the woodwork. And what I've learned that I actually love them. It took me a while, but now when they show up, or I'm doing like a Facebook Live and they're like sending me mean faces, or when you put something out and they're like, well, this is a load of, whatever. I think that they really point out to you that, okay, the universe is always in 50-50 balance. I'm not going to change that. 50% of the people are always going to think I'm like the best thing that's ever happened to them. And 50% of them, through chemistry, we're just not going to connect. We're just going to repulse each other. So I stopped taking it personally at all. And when I see those things, I'm just so thankful for them showing up to because it almost makes me modest and it grounds me. And it gives me like that both sides of life, kind of that teeter-totter that we play with every day. So I realize they're going to be there. I don't take it personally. I know that some people, especially online, just make a living out of it. Like I swear there's people that go on every single Facebook ad and just write negative comments They don't know the people. They haven't watched their webinars. They haven't gone to anything they've gone to. And I've just learned that, that could be a mental health issue. So I actually find some sort of sympathy for people who lash out at other people who are, living their dreams. Also, it does trigger people. When you're so passionate about what you do and someone is just getting by, maybe they're in a negative relationship, they're living paycheck to paycheck, they're not doing so. I mean, I did a podcast interview where I let it all out. I told how, I grew up on welfare and got to six figures. And oh my God, did I ever get, it was slow and steady, the naysayers with that one, but I would get jabs here and there. Well, you wouldn't understand because you make six figures. You haven't experienced this. And it's like, guys, did you watch the whole thing? No, I grew up on welfare where we got the Christmas boxes because we didn't have enough for food. That was me. So I appreciate everything that's come, but it did make me a bit of a target because I was so visible and so out there with that message. Now, I wasn't tooting my own horn. I was sharing that message to say, hey, listen, I don't care where you are right now. If you are on subsidy, you can get to where you want to be because I did. So it was more, that was my intent behind it. But that was an interesting piece because it was slow but steady, but little naysayers would come out with little jabs on my Facebook posts or on my Instagram. And it just triggered some people. And that's okay. It's okay that I get triggered by people, and it's okay that they get triggered by me because we all grow when that happens. Maybe not, some people don't choose to see it and take that growth, but I always take that trigger and say, what can I learn from this? Is there any truth in this? How could I make my message better? How could I make that title clearer? Things like that, just to make things better going forward.
Yeah, for sure. I love it. In fact, in my book, the Fuel Your Legacy, 9 Pillars to Build a Meaningful Legacy, that's the first thing I talk about is how to take a naysayer, or I call them haters in my book, but how to take the hater and turn it into somebody who is actually motivating out of love rather than, because I love your process. So this is where I want to bring people's mind to be conscious of what she just said. It's, well, at first she was upset, then she chose not to care. Okay, these are levels of, in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, he calls it codependency, independency, interdependency. In my language, I would say that's a good language as well. But what I would say is, okay, well, when we're talking about feelings, we have hurt, then we feel maybe animosity, then we feel apathy, and then once you feel apathy, you feel empathy. But even empathy doesn't quite go to the level of compassion. And where she ended was she went through all this, but then she said, I almost feel sympathy for them. Now, sympathy is good, but that's it's a different, sympathy and compassion are different. And my purpose of my book really is to help people understand what level compassion can play in all areas of your life. Rather than feeling bad for the haters from a sympathetic perspective, you can feel compassion for them and love and say, wow, I really want to help you get past whatever. And in your case, it's even more applicable. Whatever's blocking that emotion, whatever is mirroring right now, whatever inside of your soul feels the need to throw a dagger at me, let's talk about it, man. I love you. It makes my heart hurt that you're walking around in that much pain. And that's sad. How can we?
And that's the difference between marketing and serving, by the way, too, what you're describing. If you're just out there marketing yourself, you don't care really about anybody getting more followers and getting more attention. But what you're describing is serving and really serving at a soul level, because you actually really do care about outcomes and about people.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that is the whole purpose of my book, Fuel Your Legacy, 9 Pillars to Build a Meaningful Legacy. Anybody listening, you can still email me if you want that, or text me at 385-263-7699, or go to my website and download it for free, or you can go buy it on Amazon for I think it's
Go buy it
5.99.
on Amazon. Support this guy. Like, creative people deserve to get paid for sending their messages out there to the world. So yeah, you can download it to listen to it. Do that too, but definitely go buy it on Amazon, guys.
Yeah, I appreciate that. But I just think like that's the focus. That's one of the main missions of Fuel Your Legacy. That's why she's on
Yeah.
this podcast right now, is because that's how she thinks, that's how she processes. And I wanted to bring that processes, like that mindset and how to process through things to you guys so you guys can start applying that in other areas of your life. Because it may not be in the area of a hater. It may be
No.
something that's inside of yourself. It may be something that's completely quote unquote irrelevant, but it's absolutely relevant. If it's triggering you, this is how you process through that to a place of compassion and love and service. So thank you so
And
much.
ultimately freedom, correct? Like, because when that trigger hits, I mean, it's you that feels bad. The person who wrote anything about you or said anything about you, they've long forgotten about it. Like, we know that. It's us who hangs on to things, and they wouldn't even remember it if you brought it up 10 days from now. But you remember, and it sunk so deep with you. So it frees you from having to feel the heaviness of whatever you're feeling, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. So what would you say if you were to focus on one specific habit, mindset, or behavior that you've used to create your meaningful legacy? What is that, and how could we adopt that into our lives?
Well, it's really what I hashtag myself as, Unstoppable Belinda. I had to, well before I was unstoppable, I had to change my mindset to believe that everything is figure outable and that everything I can think my way out of and process my way out of. So I really go into every situation, no matter whatever comes at me, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and I really adopt that, and I don't. It's that resilience and that drive. And the biggest thing probably would be really understanding not only my personal why, but my world why of why I do this. Yeah, I got to six figures, but my world why was why, because there was many days I woke up and my personal why of just, getting my children into all the arts programs they want to and sports and stuff wasn't enough to empower me to go write a chapter of my book or go do a podcast or go, meet people at a networking event. But when I looked at the fact that I wanted to, one of the things I did to create my own legacy is start a scholarship at my local high school for a woman that had an entrepreneur spirit or a business spirit. I was giving them $3,000 so they could either start their own business or they could put it towards like a business studies, like a degree in business or something. So that's what fueled me, was like being able to write that check. So when it's something bigger than your surroundings, and it's like a bigger worldwide mission of really serving someone else in a big way, you're more apt to do the uncomfortable things you have to do.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to find a reason outside of yourself. And I love that. And that's what I think. It's just, you're hitting all the nails right on the head. I love it. But
Good, I'm glad.
for those listening, think about that. Like, there's a million things you could do every day. What are you currently doing that you're specifically doing for somebody other than yourself? Right. And what could you do more for both you and yourself? Because sometimes this is interesting. You're a mother. I'm a father, so it's a little different for me just because I process things differently, I think, than most women. However, I work with a lot of mothers, and what I see is they're willing to give everything in their life up for their children, or that's what they say on the outside. What I've experienced, though, when you actually start talking to these women about why they do what they do, it's more selfish. It's a weird form of selfishness, but it's like, I need to keep my sanity, so I'm willing to do whatever I can for my kids. But they're approaching it wrong, because they're approaching it from the mindset that their children have control over their sanity.
Yes, I see what you're saying.
It's a very interesting dichotomy that we have to like really process through and say, okay, what are you actually doing for yourself just because you want to do it for yourself? Not what are you doing for yourself? What are you doing for others to do for yourself? But like, what are you doing for yourself? What's your hobby? What are you identifying with? And how are you developing yourself?
Exactly. And I just got back from a fabulous girls away weekend. And it really was pretty awesome in the way that we let it all out. Like the messy that we laughed, we cried, we supported each other. Like it wasn't even planned, but it just turned into this wonderful, like 4-day therapy sessions with lots of belly laughs. It was just amazing because I was with the right people, right? The people who really got it. And one thing we came out of that weekend really realizing, and I changed myself after that weekend, is now my first priority in life is my own mental health. That's it. Okay. And then it's my husband, because I realized for years I had put my kids before my husband, and that is absolutely not what I want to do, because if we're not good, they're not good. So I realized it comes mental health, it comes my husband, then it comes my kids, and then it comes my business, my clients, the people I work with. There's many times I've had that scale all messed up, where maybe my clients came before my family, or everything came before my mental health, or whatever. But I made a decision after that weekend that absolutely my mental health has to come first, because if I don't pour up my own glass first thing in the morning, then how am I going to pour out to anybody? I just can't. There's nothing to give them. And since I have such a big heart for service, I have to be careful of that. So I have to be meeting my own needs. Before I came on this podcast, I meditated, I journaled, I had myself ready, I had myself on to give your listeners my best self. But that also fueled me, and that also took care of my needs and my mental health. So I agree with you. Like as a society, women, yes, absolutely, they have no adrenals left at all, because they're just running around putting out fires, taking care of everybody. Nobody's even asking them to. And that's actually another point I want to make. When I went back to say that I felt I had to make my husband successful first, just know he never asked me to do that. He thought I was absolutely crazy years later when I told him that. Because he's like, why would you do that? No one asked you to do that. I was fine. But through our lens, we see something completely different.
Yeah, it's just an interesting thing that I've seen more common with women. It happens with men too, but it's definitely a more common with women thing that I've seen happen. It's just something to be aware of. Again, sometimes you bring people awareness without the proper education of how to process through it, and then they start feeling guilt and shame for all this stuff that they now are aware of that they weren't aware of before. Don't feel bad about it. We're not here to increase the shame or guilt you already feel. It's just to be aware of something and say, okay, that's interesting. How could I do something different in my life? If you want to. If you don't want to, then as you said, it'll be perfect when it's time. And until then, don't worry about it. Right?
Absolutely.
Shelf it, put it on the back burner. And then when it's time, the fact that you've heard this and that you're aware of it, when it's time for your body to really put it into action, it will remember this conversation. And lucky for you that it does, really. So with that being said, how can we support you? Like if we wanted to get on your list of people that you help or have a session with you, what does that look like? How would somebody best prepare themselves to meet with you? And then how can we just get in touch with you and support you in your mission and vision?
Absolutely. So you can go to my website. It's www.belindaginter.com, and we can put it in the text.
It'll be in the show notes. Sure.
Yeah. So everything's there. I have all my published articles. I have been blessed enough to be featured in Cosmo and Huffington Post, Business Insider, some great honorable names that I'm so blessed that my name was attached to. Especially Cosmo, just because I'm a girl. I had a total Carrie from Sex and the City moment when I got published with him. The editor was laughing. I'm like, okay, you just like crushed one of my dreams by allowing me to be published with your magazine, because I'm having a Carrie Bradshaw moment right now. But really, everything's on the website. It says how to work with me, how to get in touch, how to join my list. I welcome you to find me on Facebook. My Facebook group is called Unstoppable Mindset on Demand with Belinda Ginter. Check that out and conversate with me. I'm at Unstoppable Belinda on Instagram, and I'm all over. Just Google my name, lots will pull up. Awesome. And I always invite people to Google me, which a lot of people won't say. And I no, research, find out all about me. And then, you know what? Take me for a test drive. I always say, just come book a session. Come as you are. All you need to do is have a journal and a pen with you. You have to be in a place where you can speak freely and openly. And I like you to be comfy. So we all have that place in our house where we kind of feel our comfy. Sometimes it's our bedroom, sometimes it's a comfy couch with a throw blanket, whatever it is. And have some water with you, because actually when you're releasing emotions, you're actually releasing a lot of toxins. So I like you to drink quite a bit of water during your sessions and after, because it's almost like a massage. When they kind of get all of the things flowing, you just want to flush them right out.
Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. Well, yeah, we'll have a lot of those the links in the show notes here for you, just to make sure that you guys have access to, whether you're driving and you just want to check back and click on those things and go check her out. I have not asked too many people to Google me, but I love the idea. So yeah, anybody who wants to Google me, go for it. I think if you Google,
builds immediate trust, doesn't it? Like,
say
when you
again?
hear someone say that, I feel it builds immediate trust. Like when someone's open and just says, Google me, like, find out all about what I've been up to for the last, as long as Google's been around, that can track me down, like it's just such an awesome thing.
Yeah. You have to Google Samuel Knickerbocker and you'll find me. And I'm like the top lists for Google. But if you Google Sam Knickerbocker, then you find a Baptist preacher from the South. So,
no way. That's funny.
I've done pretty good at outranking him in the Samuel Knickerbocker category. I've got to start changing stuff to Sam Knickerbocker, just so that no matter how they look for me, that I show up number one. It's pretty funny. It's good. I think it's good practice for everybody. Go Google yourself and find out, can you find yourself? What's being said about you online? Is anything being said about you online? And maybe you want more, maybe you want less, whatever the case may be. I wanted a lot more. So like yourself, go Google me. That's funny.
Yeah.
Awesome. So this is the second to last section of the show. This is called Legacy on Rapid Fire. I'm going to ask you 5 questions, and I want 1-word to 1-sentence answers. Now, this first question, you have to clarify. Okay. The answer myself does not count.
Okay.
Fair enough? Okay. So question number 1, what is holding you back from reaching the next level of your legacy?
Staffing. I need to hire more people to support my dream and to help me get there. Definitely.
Awesome. What is the hardest thing you've ever accomplished?
Ooh, hardest thing I ever accomplished was writing, because I was told by numerous teachers that I wasn't good at grammar. And so I had a really hard time writing. Like, I co-authored a book, and then also, publish articles on a regular, syndication now. And that was the hardest thing for me to get over mentally, was that, what? I am a great writer, and everybody has this creativity inside of them if they choose to focus and release it, and just block out anything you've ever heard or ever believed about creativity, so that you can kind of zero in and get stuff done.
I love it. And what is the greatest success to this point in your life?
It's my scholarship. It's definitely watching that young teenager walk across the stage, get that money, and just imagining, what great, amazing things they are going to do with their lives, because I would have done anything to have someone just say, hey, here's some money, get started. So that brings me the most pride. The other thing would be my children, birthing them and seeing what amazing human beings they're becoming. That would be my second, for sure.
Awesome. So what is one more secret that you believe has contributed to your success?
That I love other people's success. I cheer on other people's success probably even louder than I will ever cheer on my own. I love when people succeed, and I love to support them in that. So I believe that because I do that so much on a regular basis, that it just automatically success comes to me, because I am so enthusiastic about other people's rising.
Yeah, I love that. What are 2 or 3 books that you'd recommend for the Fuel Your Legacy audience?
Oh, I love Power of the Subconscious Mind. That is my absolute go-to, and I've moved it, so now I can't find it here. Power of the Subconscious Mind. It is the original by Joseph Murphy. It's a must. I love the book Chillapreneur, and that is by Denise Dunfield Thomas. Absolutely brilliant. And I also love, for your women, I love Get Rich Lucky Bitch, but also by Denise Dunfield Thomas. And for everybody, I love Everything by Robin Sharma.
Awesome. Sharma's
Everything he's ever
awesome.
written. Yeah, he is just pure brilliance. I learned through stories, and actually that's how I teach too. And I love how, like, the Saint, the Surfer, and CEO, and the Monk Who Sold His Ferrari teaches through beautiful fables like we're used to learning years ago. So you cannot go wrong with anything you pick up from Robin Sharma as well.
Yeah, amen. Perfect. So here is my favorite part of the show, and this is the question. Okay, it's really my favorite because we get to pretend that you're dead, and that's exciting.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah, I love pretending that people are dead.
Yeah, I think that's neat.
Yeah, so we're going to pretend you're dead, and we are viewing your great-great-great-great-grandchildren. So 6 generations from now, you're watching your great-great-great-great-grandchildren sit around a table discussing your life, discussing your legacy. What do you want them to be saying about Belinda's legacy 6 generations from now?
I didn't even talk philanthropy, the piece of how I was able to rise my success, but by raising other people at the same time, is what I would love for them to sit around talking about. And about my literary works, that they, the best thing about writing a book or doing things like that is that it will be available for years and years and years to be. So I hope they're reading something I wrote, and I hope they're talking about how much I gave.
Awesome. That's so inspiring. It's one of my motivations for writing a book too, is like, what are people going to be reading about me? What I wrote. What I wrote. That's
because we all find like books that like people don't know. Like another great book I can recommend to you guys is called The Game of Life and How It's Played by Florence Shin. It was written like hundreds of years ago. Like she's far past, and it's more of a religious book. So if you're not religious, just change the words is what I tell people. Put spiritual words in if that's how your brain works. But don't discount the book because it has magic in it on how to live just a really great life. And I mean, this woman has been gone for years and years and years, and this book has lived on, and so many people, so many of my clients have gotten so much amazing abundance from it, from just reading it and making small changes in their life. So I think that books are something that will last forever. Because I think we can have e-readers, but there's always going to be the people who need to touch them, that are really tactile, like me, have to underline them, score them, put the little ears on the side of the paper. I think that they are something that will never go away.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
So they leave a beautiful legacy.
Yep, I love it. And that's what this is all about, creating a legacy. So thank you so much, Belinda. And,
you're welcome.
It's very, very, very possible we'll have you on again, because I love your mission, your vision, where you're headed, and how you're assisting and blessing the lives of others in your life. So thank you so much.
And thank you for all you're doing for people's finances. There's so many people who are living a less than life and don't even realize it, just because their beliefs are stopping them from getting what they truly desire financially. So thank you for your life's work, because man, it is from someone who went from welfare. You wouldn't believe the mindset blocks I had to hurdle and jump and still find myself in years and years later. Because I guess what people need to know is that job is never done. Like, you never reach a stopping point. Like, Buffett still has moments where he has money mindset issues and he has to sort through. Like, it never ends. So I'm glad there's people out there like you that are assisting them in all of this.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much. And we will catch you guys next time on Fuel Your Legacy. Thanks for joining us today. If what you heard resonated with you, please like, comment, and share on social media. Tag me so I can give you a shout out on the next episode. And thanks to all those who have left a review. It helps spread the message of what it really takes to build a legacy that lasts. Catch you next time on Fueling Your Legacy.